Welcome to Robotics and Automation News webinars, where you can be part of a global event without leaving your home or office. Attend our live webinars and communicate directly with influential professionals in your industry.
Hello, my name is Abdul Montakim. I'm editor of Robotics and Automation News.com. In this interview, I speak to Stefan Nusser, Chief Product Officer at Fetch Robotics, a relatively new, if very successful, startup specializing in warehouse automation technologies such as autonomous mobile robots, or AMRs. The company recently partnered with Honeywell Integrated to build a pallet conveyancing solution, which you can read about on our website, although the story was embargoed at the time of this interview.
So good morning. My name is Stefan Nusser. I'm Chief Product Officer at Fetch Robotics. So I lead product at Fetch. My role is to develop product strategy. I work a lot with our customers, understand the workflows, the needs that they have. I work a lot with our engineers, understand what capabilities we could develop, how long that would take, and I sort of build a plan that we then use to build new product capabilities. I roll those out. I work with customers, make sure in the form of betas and alphas that the technology is valid and that we're hitting the KPIs, the ROI that we're looking for. And then eventually that gets launched and sort of more broadly used, and we keep learning and we create new versions. That's a day in the life of a day in my life here.
Great, thank you very much for that. And what's the latest developments or things going on that you're preoccupied with now?
So certainly the pallet transport 1500 has been getting a lot of our attention here recently. That is the latest and newest AMR that we're launching and we're revealing. We're very excited about that. We're expanding our portfolio more strongly by sort of being able to transport pallets. There's lots of pallet size loads out there in distribution centers. There's an increasing there's a lot of pressure on all material handling workflows in distribution centers, frankly, but certainly also on the pallet moving side of work streams. And we're very excited that we can start offering an automation solution that's specifically designed for that.
Now, pallets have standard sizes. I usually try to make things accessible to new people to our website, new audience members to our website. So pallets come in, standard sizes. I can't remember what the standard sizes are, and the pallet itself is a standard size. The amount of material that it contains is a certain cubic sort of volume. And so on, and that's a part of the job in a warehouse that's very difficult for a robot to do. Usually a human being unpacks the pallet and then maybe puts the human being puts them on shelves and things like that, and thereafter robots can deal with them, because often robots have shelf units perched on the back of them. Can you describe where the PT 1500 fits in? I'll have a look at a video. I'm sure I've just found one, and I'll probably be sent pictures as well. But could you describe the specifics of where it fits in, please?
Absolutely. So there's a number of workflows that are prevalent with pallets. Right? It is essentially things like cross-docking. It is things like moving a pallet from a receiving area to a storage area. It is case picking, moving cases onto a pallet, but it's also returns processing, where you're receiving bulky items at a receiving area, and then you try and sort of dispatch the pallet to these other areas. So those are the main workflows that we've been looking at. And if you look at those, then there's sort of an area where the pallet gets loaded or unloaded. And then there is a potentially longer run in the middle where the pallets gets moved. And the opportunity that we see is to, and today all these operations are being performed by forklifts. And the opportunity that we see is to sort of limit the use of forklifts in the areas where the pallet gets loaded or unloaded, and have the AMR take care of the transport in between. And that has actually multiple advantages. It increases the productivity of the sort of the associates that you have, because for the long run you don't need a human driving the forklift anymore. But it also makes it safer, right? And so many of the early customers that we've been working with are excited about AMR technology because forklifts are so unsafe, right? So if you look at the OSHA statistics for forklift safety, 11% of forklifts have an accident cause an injury every year. So that means if you have 10 forklifts in your warehouse, in your distribution center, then statistically, one of these 10 is going to cause an injury. The average cost of these injuries is about $150,000. And then of course it is, it is not good for morale, and it's not the kind of workplace that many of our customers want to have. So people gravitate towards AMRs and they say, okay, can I limit the use of forklifts maybe to only a couple of areas? And can I have the AMR that's capable of moving the pallet in a safer fashion? Can I have the AMR take care of the long run? And so the way we created the Pallet Transport 1500 is based on that observation. It's essentially an AMR, a robot with a lift that's capable of picking up a pallet, and what we call a pickup and drop-off station. And the pickup and drop-off station is, if you want, the transfer point, the handover point between a forklift and the AMR, right? So the AMR would put the pallet on a pickup and drop-off station. It's a very sturdy, metal design. And then the forklift goes and picks up the next pallet, and the AMR goes underneath the pickup and drop-off station. It lifts up the pallet, and then it's on its way. And it navigates to the corresponding destination. Right?
I mean,
so, yep.
Sorry, go on.
No, I go ahead.
Yeah, okay. I was just, sorry to interrupt, but I was just thinking that that's quite a lot of weight for the AMR to pick up. It's normally AMRs have, I can't remember what the average payload is, but that seems like quite a high payload. What is the payload of that AMR?
So within that configuration, the payload, the net payload that you can have on the pallet is about 2,500 pounds. So 1,136 kilograms to be specific.
That's about the weight of a average size car, isn't it?
I'm not sure about that actually. I do know it covers a good portion of what gets moved on pallets. Right? Yeah. I mean, there are a few that are heavier, but if you look at the distribution, that 2,500 pounds gives you sort of a good portion of what's currently moved on pallets.
Yeah, I don't know if it is that that cars are that sort of weight, but I know I think I've read one or two stories about AMRs being used in car manufacturing plants, and they're talking about or testing systems for replacing the traditional assembly line and replacing it with the robotic cell-based system where AMRs go from one cell to another and get work done on the vehicle. I know it's not your area, but it's just very interesting to find so many different and new ways
yes.
of working. Yes. And warehouses obviously have seen a huge amount of change. What would you say would be the most transformative or the most profitable changes going on now, and how do you think what kind of areas do you think will improve and get even more efficient and productive?
Honestly, I think AMRs are it. I think the core technology here, and the AMR that is underneath the Pallet Transport 1500, our Freight 1500, that's the core robot that sort of, it breaks down into the robot, the lift, and the pickup and drop-off station. The robot itself is a great example. And on top of that robot, you can, and we do equally well, build a solution for manufacturing that sort of replaces a linear conveyor with something that's much more flexible, much more programmable, like you suggested. right? So I'm very excited about AMRs as a core technology. I'm really excited about what they can do for workspace safety as we start sort of replacing more and more forklift-driven workflows with an AMR. I think that is going to transform, and it's going to, it has that dual value proposition. It is a safer way of moving these loads, and it's also a more it's much easier to optimize with an AMR, right? So the second thing that we're doing here with the Pallet Transport 1500 is we're partnering with Honeywell, who's going to offer, or he's offering, a pallet conveyance solution. And what that does is it adds Honeywell's warehouse execution system. It's called Momentum. We've been integrating that with the Pallet Transport 1500, right? So if you get the pallet conveyance solution from Honeywell, then that gives you not only the ability to transport pallets, but it adds the capability to have that be driven, have that be optimized by one of the industry's best WES systems, Momentum. Right? So it's that package that I think it's gonna unlock a lot of value, because Momentum knows about all the processes. It orchestrates warehouse processes. It knows when goods are arriving. It knows where they need to be stored. And it knows how long it takes to get from point A to point B, so it can coordinate and schedule these runs. So it's the combination that we like, and we think is a very powerful combination.
Right. I've got a couple of questions, a couple of more questions, but it's just such an interesting area. I could ask loads of questions. I mean, right now I'm thinking, how much more efficient has a warehouse become as a result of AMRs? I mean, in general, I know that's a very difficult thing to quantify unless you look specifically at it, whereas in a human sort of operated warehouse, did a certain number of, had a certain amount of throughput or a certain amount of productivity with an AMR or with AMR systems and warehouse execution systems and so on. How much more productive does it become, do you think? I mean, I don't know if you have statistics or if you have a ballpark figure in your mind.
I have ballpark figures. I've seen productivity double. I've seen us being able to do more than double. I've seen us being able to triple productivity. And that happens in scenarios where you have multiple shifts, right? So if you have a net productivity gain with the combination of automation and optimization, and you apply that to a workflow, and I'll get more into how automation and optimization play together, but you apply that to a workflow, and then you look at, okay, you're running that workflow in 2 or 3 shifts, right? So, throughout over 24 hours, you have 3 shifts of people, and the AMR, our big robot, works for 8 hours, and then it recharges for 1 hour, right? And then it works again, and then it works again, right? So over a 24-hour time window, you can have that robot work for 21, 22 hours, and you charge it in between. So if you're running multiple shifts, if you have a sort of a baseline productivity improvement where, let's say you're increasing productivity by 60, 70%, or even by 100%, as it is the case with some workflows, then you can run that over, and you can run that over 3 shifts. In parallel, you're making your workspace a safer environment that adds up to significant value.
Now, what would you say? I know it's again, I'm asking for ballpark figures, but you're an expert in your field. Obviously, you look at these things every day. Maybe your guess would be better than mine or other people's. But sometimes I do ask this of other people: what percentage of warehouses would you say across the board in America, for example, do not yet have automation technology like AMRs? I know probably 90% of them have conveyors of some sort and traditional what we might call traditional technologies, but AMRs. And the reason I ask is because there are more AMR companies cropping up and emerging, and I suppose it's getting competitive, but to me it feels like there's so many warehouses that are still yet to get AMR technology, that there's plenty of room for all the companies that are building and supplying AMRs. Well, what's your impression of it?
I don't have a single hard number as that is the percentage of warehouses where we have AMRs, active. But I think it's early days for AMRs. I think if you look at the number of forklifts that are out there, if you look at the number of conveyors and the number of warehouses total, then it gives you a sense for a landscape that I think has seen, some leveraging of AMRs, but I think it is at the very beginning. And I also see these spaces growing, right? There's more and more warehouse space, like as retail gradually transitions from brick and mortar to e-commerce, as manufacturing becomes sort of more flexible. You see more and more distribution infrastructure being built and coming online, and that is, I think, also contributing to the growth here, right? So I think it's early days, and as I said, I'm excited about what this technology can do.
Yeah, it's early days. If you look at the broad, historical sweep, but AMR has been around for quite some time, and it's only, I don't know, you correct me if I'm wrong, it's in the last year or two that they've really shot up, they've really accelerated in the last year or two in terms of number of sales, number of companies willing to bring them in, and so on. And I do want to just ask one more question about the idea of lots of companies emerging in this field. What would differentiate you from competitors? What can each company do that will enable it to carve out its own niche and territory? I don't expect you to talk in general, but specifically Fetch Robotics, what are you doing to provide some sort of a USP or advantage, if you like?
So when I think about Fetch, right, the three things that I like to talk about in terms of differentiation is we have a platform, a whole range of AMRs for different types of payloads, right? So they range from 100 kilogram to 500 kilogram to 1500 kilogram, but the one that we've been talking about more today. So it's the range of options, the ability to support a wide variety of workflows. A lot of what's going on in a distribution center is going to fit on top of one of these AMRs. That is one of the things that sets us apart. The second thing is we don't sell these AMRs as building blocks. We sell them as integrated solutions. And that is something that has always been important to our customers. They get everything out of one hand. When you use a robot with a lift and a P&D station, then all of this is provided by Fetch. Its ability to move pallets is something that we have confidence is going to work, and we will work with the customer to make sure it delivers the ROI, the KPIs that we set out to achieve. So the fact that we provide integrated solutions sets us apart from some of the other players on top of that flexible platform. Right? And then the other reason why the integrated solution is important, by the way, and it's going to become more important in the future, is there is a new safety standard in town. And it is called R1508. It was released late last year, December 25th, actually. And it specifically puts the responsibility for being in compliance with the provider of the solution. So the fact that from Fetch you get an integrated solution that is in compliance with the new safety standard is going to be a big differentiator. And it's something that our customers have started to ask for. And over the next year, as R1508 becomes prevalent, and as companies are going to get asked, hey, are you in compliance and what are you doing to be in compliance? I think that's going to be a sort of a big topic. And so the third aspect that differentiates us is the sort of the cloud robotics, the cloud-based approach that we're taking. Every one of our AMRs comes with the cloud-based integration platform and management platform, FetchCore. And that makes it real easy for you to deploy the AMR. It also makes it real easy for you to get a basic workflow up and running. And it is that platform that we use to integrate with partners like Honeywell Integrated in this example that sets us apart from other companies, right? So it's the fact that we have a fleet that can support a wide variety of different payloads and workflows. It's the fact that we offer integrated solutions, and it's the cloud-based, immediately available nature of our software that I think makes us unique in the marketplace.
The technology is so new in industrial historical terms that safety standards specifically for AMRs are only just now emerging and being developed.
Yes.
So that's quite interesting, and it's also interesting that it's comes at a time, these standards are coming at a time when coronavirus is affecting everyone, and maybe something like that will be incorporated into it. I don't know, but on that point of coronavirus and all of us having to, stay at home, we're all obviously ordering things more online. E-commerce has been growing for quite some time. And what has been your observations about the growth of e-commerce that happened before coronavirus, and now that coronavirus maybe it's accelerated the e-commerce boom, and how has that affected the warehouse and the AMR business in general?
That is exactly what we've been seeing, right? We've seen this sort of acceleration, this bump in that, like, there is the longer term trend, the longer term trajectory, and due to the pandemic, we've seen this pump that made players in the logistics space scramble for more people, and then when they realized, oh, this isn't a problem we can solve with more people, and there aren't that many more people available, they start looking at automation. And for us as a provider of AMRs, actually, it's been a really interesting journey. We've had to learn how to deploy our AMRs without getting on site, right? So when you look at the world of automation technologies, there aren't many automation technologies you can deploy with a video conference. And we've actually learned how to do this. So we started shipping out AMRs, and we told our partners and customers, hey, when the box arrives, let's have a video conference session, and then we'll walk you through the deployment and setup process. We made the deployment and setup process easier because until this year, our assumption was this is something that one of our application engineers is going to do. But then this year, we started realizing, okay, this is something that we need to set up in such a way that our customers can do it themselves. So we learned how to do that, and doing it, when we did it the first time, that was a big, exciting thing. To have a customer essentially receive a robot, connect it to the network, map the workspace, annotate the workspace, set up the programming, and then see the robot actually start working within a day or two, just with guidance over video conference. That was an exciting moment for us. And it was a big step in terms of being able to roll out automation at a time when customers really need it, but really don't want their vendors to come on site because they have social distancing rules in place for their employees. So that was an exciting thing that happened this year.
Right. And just one last sort of standard question, if you like. Employee retention in logistics and warehouse operations tends to be an issue. As far as I know, people say that it's actually quite difficult to hire and keep staff. Is there something that you'd like to say about how AMRs can maybe, resolve some of those issues in that respect?
Yeah, so we have a human robot interaction team at Fetch, and we work a lot with our customers. We have a very deep understanding of how our AMRs partner with employees, and we've overall seen a very positive effect. So associates in the workspace, there's an initial almost like being apprehensive when the AMR gets introduced, but then very quickly this becomes a positive experience. It becomes an experience that associates realize this is amplifying me, this is helping me. It's something new. It's once you sort of have gone through this phase of I'm not sure what to expect here. Usually what we see is the workers almost partnering, teaming up with the robots. So I've seen deployments where robots and people were working together so seamlessly. It was almost it was really amazing to see. People slowing down, letting robots sort of go in and share the path. Robots slowing down because it detects a person, and people full of confidence, like accelerating so that they can sort of hit an aisle before the robot, knowing that the robot's going to slow down, not wanting the robot to come to a full stop, right? So people after a couple of days, they understand intuitively the behaviors of the robot, the heuristics that the robot uses to make sure traffic runs smoothly, and then they behave accordingly. And what you get is sort of this collaborative behavior between people and robots. we have, for example, at Fetch, before March, when we were all sitting in the office, we have robots move around our workspace at all times, right? Testing and doing things. So it's interesting when we get a new hire, right? The first day they're like, oh, a robot, is it gonna, do I go first? Does the robot go first? And then the second, the third day, that goes away. And then, on the fourth day, they're completely oblivious, right? They're just meshing. So as a technology, I think it has an empowering effect on people, and it has, it's like another skill for them. Like I know how to work with Fetch AMRs. I know how to sort of interface with them, to work with them, and that's another sort of another experience that I have, that's going to help me with the next series of jobs that I'm going to do.
Right. And what's the is there a warehouse that is fully automated, completely humanless, without any human employees around, or is it possible? I mean, I know that there's one or two jobs, like I say, the pallet unloading or the disassembling, I don't know what you call it, when you take individual items off pallets and things like that. That's quite a complex job. Then there's the when you have a conveyor system and at various points the human is standing and waiting for items to go by, and they select whatever items to make individual orders. Those are a variety of items. That's something a robot would have difficulty doing. There are one or two jobs that seem to be at the moment beyond the capability of robots, as far as I understand. But what's your view of it?
I think the number is very small of really lights off warehouses. And it's something that today it makes sense if you've got a very standardized environment with very, very high volume, very controlled circumstances. I think it is primarily as a vision, right? I think you're going to see the light getting increasingly dimmer, right? From bright to dim to lights off warehouses. But I think for a long period of time, people and robots are going to work together to make warehouses run efficient. You get a lot of flexibility that way. With our AMRs, changing the workflow of the robot is a matter of a couple of minutes. Right? So it's very easy to adapt. A lot of our customers have, their work processes, their operational practices are evolving over time, and the sort of this partnership, this combination of people and robots gives you a very flexible, foundation on which you can sort of gradually change and make your workflows more efficient. And I think for a long, long time, many years, we're going to be sort of in that journey where we gradually increase our efficiency, yet we retain the flexibility that we get through that combination of human workers and robotic automation. And that's what it's going to be, for the next decade. And then this fully automated lights off warehouse is something that is a corner case in many ways, right? This only works when you're very, very standardized, when your workflows are very, very fixed, and when you know exactly you're building for this very high volume of very standardized set of use cases.
It'd be really interesting to hear from you if you have a client like that, which where they don't have any humans working. It'd be interesting to know about that. Okay, so that's I've come to my final question, I suppose. Usually I ask what the future plans are of a company. You've raised Fetch Robotics has raised a lot of money. I noticed on Crunchbase, I'm looking at $94 million. You're prepared for a lot of things, I suppose. I mean, what does the future hold for Fetch Robotics?
I'm not ready at this point to talk about our sort of financial plans. It's certainly we've seen a lot of demand, we've seen a lot of growth, and we're excited about that. We're very confident in our portfolio, and we're looking forward to another year where AMRs are going to help make a difference and make a safer workspace in both the manufacturing and in the supply chain environments that we're working in.
Right. Okay. All right, Stefan. Thank you very much for your time and your insights today.
I think that was a really good conversation.
Yeah, I enjoyed it very much. I hope we can do it again soon.
Send us an email at sales@roboticsandautomationnews.com to register for one of our many upcoming webinars. And if you'd like us to host your webinar, we have a range of options, including long-term lead generation packages and marketing campaigns. We look forward to hearing from you soon.